I can't stop, there's a misery. It must be way down.
As I recall, working with John Prine um, was not the first time I'd worked with a major artist, but I had just really auxiliary jobs. Up until then, I was either a background singer on some artists. It was always for Steve Cropper, something he was producing at Trans Maximus. And yeah, I would either do that or I'd be playing guitar because Steve was an electric guitar man and I was an acoustic guitarist, and so he'd just get me to play uh, acoustic guitar on the tracks. This is before I was just transitioning and playing keyboards at the time. But John was one of the first majors I worked with, one of the first. And Steve and I, at this point in time, had moved to Ardent Recordings in Memphis, which was a mecca for all sorts of recording at the time. And Steve was producing so much that he basically just camped out in the B studio at Ardent. And he had an office in Ardent, and they gave me an office in Ardent. And Steve and I were writing a lot of songs together, and so when he landed the John Prine project, he used sidemen from all over the place, flew them in, and he hired me to sit with John and write out the charts, the rhythm charts for the players. Um, and it was very interesting. One thing that I'll never forget uh, is uh, each each day I would go down to the Holiday Inn Rivermont, which is one of the big River Bluff hotels in downtown Memphis, and I would pick John up in the afternoon, say at about 4 o'clock, and I'd take him to the studio, and he'd go into a room with a guitar, and he'd write the song that he was going to do that night. And it took about an hour and a half for him to write the song. Then he'd come in to see me and he'd play it to me, and I'd write the chord chart out. And then they'd record it that night. It was amazing. I mean, every day he would do that without missing one time. So once Steve ended up with the project at a certain state where he felt like it needed some strings, it was really the first time Steve gave me a break. He had been using LA arrangers to come into Memphis from before up until that point. And it was the first time Steve gave me a big break, and he said, "I want you to do strings on a couple of sides on this record." And I was ecstatic, but I was scared to death